Now, they need that money in order to have the post office work so it can take all of these millions and millions of ballots.
This morning on Fox Business, Donald Trump came out and just admitted that he is screwing with the post office to mess up mail-in balloting that will help his chances in November. Now, we all already knew this, but him admitting it, I mean, now there's just no denying that they are intentionally trying to suppress the vote as really their only shot at winning this election in November, at least as the election stands right now. So first, let me show you this clip here from Fox Business.
They want $3.5 billion for the mail-in votes, okay, universal mail-in ballots. $3.5 trillion. They want $25 billion for the post office. Now, they need that money in order to have the post office work so it can take all of these millions and millions of ballots. Now, in the meantime, they aren't getting there. By the way, those are just two items. But if they don't get those two items, that means you can't have universal mail-in voting.
So there we go. Trump coming out, just admitting it, that if the post office doesn't get this funding, then you can't have universal mail-in voting, which Trump has talked about all the time, how he hates mail-in voting, doesn't trust it, even though he did it himself, but nope, doesn't trust anybody else to do it. And of course, the reason being that a lot of Democrats vote by mail, and if voter turnout is high, Democrats win. When turnout's low, Republicans tend to win. So when you're looking at this election and you see the pandemic that's going on, a lot more states are opening up to mail-in balloting and encouraging people to vote by mail, as it is a way to keep them safe and away from crowds of people at the polls. So you could also argue at the same time that Trump actually wants the pandemic to continue and be as threatening as it is right now, because it actually helps his chances, because that means less people come out to vote in person, which means they likely mail-in vote or don't vote at all, which helps his chances. This from Vice. The comments make clear why Trump and congressional Republicans have steadfastly refused to grant the post office money in the latest round of negotiations over coronavirus stimulus. Trump has long attacked mail voting as fraud-prone, even though there's little evidence that's true, and he sees slowdowns at the post office as a way to screw up mail voting. Widespread delays in ballot delivery could disenfranchise millions of people, lead to widespread chaos, and potentially swing a close election. Polls show that Democrats are increasingly likely to use mail voting as a safe way to cast a ballot during the pandemic, while Trump's attacks on mail voting have pushed Republicans away from a method they've often used in the past. And Larry Kudlow here on CNBC, essentially, saying the same thing about their approach to voting rights. Watch this clip.
So much of the Democratic asks are really liberal left wish lists. We don't want to have voting rights and aid to aliens and so forth. That's not our game, and the president can't accept that kind of deal.
Top White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow saying that voting rights is both not their game, as if it's a game, and that it is part of a liberal left wish list. Voting rights, part of a liberal left wish list. They might as well just come out and say they're fascist. They don't want you to vote. They don't want you to be able to vote. Before I even move on, look, this is why I think it's important to overwhelm the vote. As I've described before, you got two horrible options here, but the ultimate goal of a Trump administration is fascism. The ultimate goal of a Biden-Harris administration is not fascism. Now, yes, of course, neoliberalism has led to Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't come out of nowhere. He's here because of failed neoliberal administrations. But that doesn't mean you just sit in the shit and let it get worse. You have to cut this tumor off. You have to end this nightmare. You have to overwhelm the vote. And if you don't like the idea of voting for Biden, which I completely empathize with 100%, I understand Biden has a horrible record, has said horrible things, he's not a great candidate. Think of this as voting for the person you want to fight. I rather fight a neoliberal administration than fight a neo-fascist one. Now, the Postmaster General. I mean, this is the source of a lot of these issues that, of course, Trump put this guy in. The agency's new leader, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, a former supply chain CEO and a major donor to Trump and other Republicans, has pushed cost-cutting measures to eliminate overtime pay and hold mail until the next day if postal distribution centers are running late. DeJoy, 63, of North Carolina, was tapped to head the service by a Trump-appointed board of governors and started in June. He is the first Postmaster General in nearly 2 decades who is not a career postal employee. DeJoy here purposely put in place to destroy the USPS. And more on him here. Financial disclosure reveals Postmaster General's business entanglements and likely conflicts of interest. So this is just another layer on top of everything else. Louis DeJoy continues to hold a multi-million-dollar stake in his former company, XPO Logistics, a United States Postal Service contractor, likely creating a major conflict of interest according to newly obtained financial disclosures and ethics experts. Outside experts who spoke to CNN were shocked that ethics officials at the Post Service approved this arrangement, which allows DeJoy to keep at least $30 million in XPO holdings. So this is a clear conflict of interest. You're not even allowed to have an appearance of a conflict of interest as an official like this. And this is just a direct conflict of interest. Now, to give you an idea specifically of some of the stuff they're doing, they're cutting overtime hours. They're taking away the ability for mail to be delivered the same day. They're pushing it to the next day. There's been massive delays in mail. Here's another piece of it. This, I believe, came out today, actually. Indeed. From Vice. The United States Postal Service is removing mail sorting machines from facilities around the country without any official explanation or reason given. In many cases, these are the same machines that would be tasked with sorting ballots. This is Trump interfering in the election. This is Trump attempting to steal the election. Look, if you thought it was going to get bad under Trump, you were right. But you probably didn't see this coming. You probably didn't see it going to this extent. But it's here. And this is just year 4. Imagine what else can happen. Also, I want to point this out. This is the U.S. Postal Service is the most, or has the highest favorability rating out of any federal agency. 91% favorable for the U.S. Postal Service. So, Republicans, they always try to, there's always been attempts, or at least discussions about trying to, either destroy or privatize the Postal Service, but it's incredibly popular. You have a service here, and again, it is a service. It is not meant to be a business. It is a service. Like, you can go to a public school. You can use the post office. These are services that are available to everyone. They are universal. What company is going to think that it is a smart investment to send a letter from the middle of nowhere, somewhere in the middle of the country where no one lives, from there to, New York City? No company would do that the way that the Postal Service does it for pennies. So you have here a service that people rely on. And when it comes to something like mail-in voting, is essential. But you have here a leader in Donald Trump that knows that the only way he's going to win this election is if he steals it. And that's what he's trying to do.